A synagogue in London. A rabbi counsels a convert bride-to-be days before the wedding.
Ah, Kerry, hello. Thank you for taking the time to come and see me before the wedding.
Oh no, my pleasure.
Now, Kerry, you are aware that you will have to give up a few small things as a person converting to the Orthodox Jewish faith.
Yeah, sure, no, I completely understand, and I'm more than happy to make these small sacrifices. I know it'll be worth it.
Great, and I assume you have done your research and attended the weekly Torah studies and have chosen the Jewish faith because ultimately our practices and history resonates with you?
Yes, of course, I've read the Torah and completely agree with the teachings. I really feel that this religion is in line with the kind of person I am.
Ah, splendid. In that case, seeing as you've thoroughly studied the main codes of conduct and so forth, we can skip all these details. So, to welcome you, we'll be hosting a potluck next week. I will just briefly run you through a few of our treif dietary requirements so you know what to bring.
Oh, how exciting.
Right, so, mixtures of meat and dairy products are prohibited. You must wait up to 6 hours after eating meat products before eating dairy products. However, meat may be eaten following dairy products with the exception of hard cheese, which also requires a 6-hour interval. Prior to eating meat after dairy, one must eat a solid food and the mouth must be rinsed. A kosher kitchen must have 2 separate sets of pots, pans, plates and silverware, one for meat, poultry and other for dairy foods. Also, only consumption of kosher alcohol, but in moderation.
Alcohol
And they're so complex
in moderation?
Also, no pork or anything that derives from an animal with a cloven hoof.
No more pork pies. No bacon sandwiches. Oh, God, and all I wanted to do was speed up my film career by marrying a Bernstein.
Carrie?
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hello guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mosaic with me, Jenny.
And me, Sarah.
We did take a bit of a break, you might have noticed, but now we're back, full of energy, and I hope you're ready as well. Alright, Sarah, so what's been going on with you? Any news?
Well, I went to watch Moonlight yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was really touching. The music was great. Only thing is that the ending was kind of disappointing. I was expecting something a lot more substantial. But
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just, I think it was because of the hype around it and the fact that it won an Oscar. Also, the main guy that won a supporting actor Oscar, he was only in it for 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah, literally like 10-15 minutes. I was like, what the hell?
That must have been an amazing 10-15 minutes. Like, he must have acted the crap out of those 10-15 minutes.
It was okay. It was average. But yeah, I'm a bit disappointed, and I wasn't the only one, because at the end of the film, everyone was like, oh. And this guy in the middle of the film just got up and walked out. He was like, right, I'm off. He was like this 60-year-old man. It was weird.
Maybe he thought he was in for a show of La La Land.
Probably, yeah.
It's like midway through, it was like, no song's coming yet. It's all black people as well. What the fuck? That's not what I signed up for.
I know, he was
leaving.
I think he was with his wife or something. And he literally just turned to her and was like, right, I'm off. I'm going. See you later.
Oh wait, he left his wife. He just walked out on his wife.
Yeah, strange. Anything new with you in Journeyland?
Here's a new development. Do you know the joke, why did the chicken cross the street?
Yeah.
To get to the other side. I just learned recently that it's a suicide joke.
No way.
Yeah, so to get to the other side means to die. Which is like such a bizarre and obscure joke. Like, why?
That's so strange.
What?
Where does it come from? Where does it originate from?
I have no idea. I've genuinely no. I just saw it on someone's Twitter page.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? How is this a suicide joke? And if it's a suicide joke, why is it funny?
So it's a suicide joke because the chicken's crossing the road and they're most likely going to die, and that's the intention.
Yeah, so by saying they want to get to the other side, they mean not to the other side of the road, but sort of
heaven, the
afterlife.
afterlife.
To afterlife. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting.
But that's pretty much been the highlight of my week, finding that out. So that probably tells you quite a lot about my week in general.
Yeah, so eventful and
let's
exciting.
just move on.
Right, yeah. Oh, by the way, did you do anything for Valentine's Day?
Nope. You?
That's a clean, smooth no.
Nope.
No, I didn't do anything. Oh yeah, I actually went to watch Clockwork Orange with my gay friend. So that was pretty good.
Clockwork Orange. That sounds like a very romantic Valentine's-y thing to do.
Very, very. It was very violent and very testosterone fueled. It was like the gay version of it, which was interesting. I really enjoyed it actually. It's pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I did for Valentine's Day.
I don't think genuinely I've ever done anything for Valentine's Day. That's A, because I've never been in a proper relationship. And B, because I don't really buy into the whole Valentine's thing.
Oh, really? I don't mind. I think it's fine. I think it's fine to celebrate love. Why not? I mean...
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I guess so. But I'm just not a fan of sort of these forced celebrations. Like I'm not even a big fan of birthdays, to be completely honest.
Oh, really?
So. Yeah, because I come from that sort of very typically Asian upbringing where it's like, why are you celebrating something where
Getting
you didn't
closer
achieve
to death
anything?
as well.
Well, not necessarily that. It's mostly just like you didn't achieve anything. Like, if anything, it should be my mum who's awarded because she is the one who pushed me out.
Tolerated
so kudos
you.
to her. Exactly, but it's like, why am I celebrating something when I didn't achieve anything? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Aww.
I'd still like go for a dinner or go for lunch with friends and sort of, but I'm not a big fan of sort of cake cutting. And some people have like a big 16th or 21st birthday and like go crazy. I just don't get it. I've never been one to.
You don't like birthdays? No, fair enough. Yeah, you're so self-deprecating. Like, it doesn't matter if you haven't achieved anything. You're alive and you don't have any STDs or illnesses. Celebrate.
Yeah, I'm not
healthy.
a drug addict.
Exactly. Check. But yeah,
that's true.
Anyways, moving on, guys, and on the topic of love and relationships, this week we're talking about interracial and interreligious relationships.
Smooth.
Yeah. So obviously the topic touches home for me as I'm a product of a biracial union, an interracial relationship, or whatever you want to call it, and also most interestingly, an interreligious relationship. So we'll speak about my opinions and experiences as a person of mixed race descent later on. And I don't know about you, Jenny, but I'm really excited about this topic.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, especially, considering who we are.
Yeah.
Coming from the backgrounds that we do.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it's something very personal.
Yeah, and there are also so many layers to it as well. And also a lot of our friends, because of a lot of our friends are from the UK, a lot of people here are in interreligious or interracial relationships. It's something that really touches home for us. And it's also something that has loads of problematic elements, even in our day and age.
Absolutely. Especially for sort of first immigration sort of generation kids like myself and all my friends.
Exactly, yeah.
Who are dealing with parents who are not really used to the concept of dating, especially not outside of your community. This is a hugely important topic, I think.
Definitely. I mean, it should be celebrated and encouraged, but we're still we're living a very, very weird, sensitive, dated period. Like, everything's kind of going backwards and it's a bit manic at the moment. But anyways, I think this one should be a good one to discuss. So,
absolutely.
Before we get started, random question. What do you reckon is the right terminology for a mixed race person? So, there's so many words. There's biracial, there's mixed heritage, there's even half caste. Out of curiosity, what do you think is the right term? What isn't offensive?
I think half caste is definitely a bit offensive. Like, that is, I would not. I think I'd go for biracial.
Yeah,
probably,
I've always used mixed race in like social surroundings, like just I'm mixed race. But apparently, according to the British Sociological Association, half caste, as you said, is dated and a racist term which should be avoided. Mixed race is a misleading term because it implies that a pure race exists. So they advise alternatives including mixed parentage and dual heritage.
Okay.
And obviously anything to do with coloured is offensive. Because...
But, so do you remember this whole debacle about Benedict Cumberbatch calling people of colour coloured people? And everyone was like, oh my God, he's a racist. They were calling him names and criticising him and all that malarkey. But do you know Trevor Noah?
Yeah.
So he's from South Africa, and he was saying how the term coloured is absolutely acceptable in South Africa. That's how you refer to them. Like he refers to him as coloured. And it was just so funny how in different cultures you have these different terms.
Yeah. I mean, especially right now, you know, people say that there's a big debate saying that a lot of people think that words don't have that much of a meaning, like especially Trump, where his defense of using hateful rhetoric is that it's just words, but words, especially, you know, racist language, has psychological effects on people in the long term. Yeah. So it's really something we need to be aware of, I think, especially now.
But yeah, before we sort of, as a way to sort of introduce us into the topic, we decided to go with a round of 5 and 5. So basically what we're going to do today, it's basically going to be a really prolonged segment of 5 and 5.
Yeah.
We're just going to ask each other 5 questions, but they're not going to be answered in 5 minutes. It's probably going to be more 15 minutes.
Yeah, they're going to be good, we promise. They'll be interesting, juicy ones.
Yeah. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, can do. Okay, so number 1, if you brought home a person of another cultural background, would that be challenging for you, and how would you deal with it?
Would that be challenging for me? Hell yes.
Okay.
How would I deal with it? So, for those who don't know, my parents are from Sri Lanka, and I'm Tamil, so I'm Sri Lankan Tamil, born and raised in Germany. So, for my parents, the ideal son-in-law, I suppose, would be another Sri Lankan Tamil who is a Hindu, because my parents are Hindu. Anything that isn't that would be challenging.
Okay. And what would they say?
I don't think they'd disown me or anything, but they'd definitely be like, why can it not be the other? Why can it
and
not
would
be
it
someone...
be one of those things where they say it to your face, or would it just be awkward silences and kind of like, you know, you would know that is the deal?
Oh, no. They'd sit me down. They'd be like, what are you doing?
Really?
Like, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
If I were to date someone who's sort of, you know, who's anything but, I guess I'd date in secret.
Okay.
Which sounds ridiculous because I'm 28 and I shouldn't be. And a lot of my friends who sort of suffer from the same background, they're dealing with the same problems where they have to date in secret because the thing is, I'm not really keen on introducing every boyfriend to my parents.
Yeah.
Because that just makes... You just don't do that in
That's
in
understandable,
my culture.
yeah.
I would date in secret until I know for 100% that this is the guy I'm going to marry.
That's understandable. I mean, I wouldn't even bring home any Tom, Dick and Harry either. I think a lot of people feel the same way, because your parents after a while would just be like, oh, it's another Harry, it's another Tom. Okay, how long is this one going to last? You know, they're going to be a bit cynical about it. So true. Yeah, I guess that's normal for a few people. So how would you deal with it then? Say you were really, really in love with someone and you're like, no, this is the guy I want to spend the rest of my life with, and you're absolutely sure. And it was like a white English guy. How would you deal with it? Would you just be like, well, this is it really? Like, he's my soulmate. I don't think I'll find anyone else. You know, what would you do?
Yeah, that'd be pretty much me. I'd just be like, you know what, deal with it. Like, I'm not taking this lightly. I know this is difficult for you, so I'm not taking it lightly. I do respect where you're coming from, but at the same time, this is my life.
Yeah.
I can't get married to someone who you think is right for me when in 20, 30 years time you're going to be dead. No disrespect, but you're going to be dead, and then I have to continue living a life with someone I don't love just because I wanted to make you happy for it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely
you know what I mean?
true. Yeah, no, I agree with.
How's that for you though? Because like, would that be difficult for you?
I mean, I think obviously because my parents are from 2 different races, I reckon they would be more understanding with things like that. But obviously my dad would prefer me to marry, you know, a Muslim person. But I think they would be, when it comes down to it, they would be more lenient. If I was like, okay, this is the guy that I love and they like the guy, then I think that would be okay. But I'm also very traditional and close to my family. So that would be a factor for me to, you know, kind of look at whether my family would like them and approve of them.
That's true, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's me, basically.
That was basically also one of my questions for you, so that goes.
Okay. Well, next one. So, out of an interreligious or an interracial relationship, which one do you think you'd find most difficult?
Definitely interreligious for me.
Oh, really?
But that's because I'm not religious, so anything where religion comes in, be that relationship or whatever, I would find challenging. Being with someone who is religious, I find that much more challenging than being with someone who comes from a different race, because you can still think the same way and share sort of the same beliefs, even though you come from different
backgrounds,
different ethnicities. But I think
Okay, so if you met a black Hindu guy, do you reckon that would be easier than a black Christian guy?
Well, if I found a black Hindu, I think I'd notify the Guinness Book of Records, because I don't think I've ever heard of a black Hindu.
Well, just saying, if it did happen, would you find that difficult? And would your family be more accepting of that, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that would be the difference. If I'm a black Hindu, I think for my parents it'd be nicer, because they'd be like, okay, he's black, but at least he's Hindu.
Okay, that's interesting.
So they'd be more understanding. But for me, I think it'd be even more challenging than being with a black Christian or a black Muslim, because him being black Hindu means that he converted at some point. So to him, religion plays a really important role in his life.
That's very true. I always find that people that convert later on in life find, a lot more serious about the religion. They know a lot more about the ideology, the history. Even for me, if I got with someone who converted at, 25 or whatever, they'd probably know more about the religion than me, which is normally the case. So they take the religion a lot more seriously.
Yeah, for me that'd be much, much more challenging to be with someone who's sort of converted. That'd be
Okay. Yeah, because it's more about choice for them, isn't it? Like, it wasn't like something they got kind of palmed off at as a child. They chose that religion. But I mean, I think for me it's similar. For me, I think I think both would be okay, but my dad definitely would prefer someone who is from the same religion. So like an inter-religious relationship would probably be a bit more difficult.
So he'd be happy with a black Muslim as opposed to sort of a Sudanese atheist?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially an atheist.
Okay.
I think my dad would probably prefer someone who's from, an Abrahamic background, like religion-wise. But then if it was an atheist, it would be like, oh wow, no.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think even my mum would be a bit iffy about that as well. Because I do come from a background where both of my sides believe in, religion.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, so next one. What are your first thoughts when you see an interracial couple?
Do you know what? I think it differs from where I see that couple. Because here in mainland Europe, or here in Germany, you don't see a lot of interracial couples. Like, it's still
okay. So, but when you do see interracial couples, what kind of races mix? Is it black and white, or is it German and black? Like, what kind of couple?
Yeah, in Germany that would probably be white and black.
Okay. And how do people react to that when they see it? Is it the norm now, or do they still get a lot of looks?
They still do. They get more looks and more attention compared to London. Because when I see an interracial couple in London, I don't look twice. I don't check twice. My reaction is different. What are my first thoughts are, oh my god, what's the background story? I just want to sort of know how they're dealing with this. How did they tell their parents? What did it take them to sort of become an official couple? Yeah. Whereas in Germany, it's just like, whoa, check them out.
Really? Bloody hell. Oh my god. That's like Italy, actually. No, in Italy I find it very strange. Like, I would definitely look twice and I'd be like, oh, is she Italian? Because that's quite strange. That's not the norm. But yeah, I mean, here it's the norm for me. I've grown up around it.
It is the norm.
When I see mixed race couples, I'm like, oh, when they're kids, especially mixed race kids, I find them really, really sweet. Because they never look like either of their parents, so it's like, they always come out looking really just gorgeous and just completely different. So yeah, it's the norm for me, especially in London, because London used to be a port, and there are so many immigrants and so many mixed race people. I feel like London is moving towards where, I mean, whites are a minority anyways, but there'll be a lot more mixed race couples.
Than white people, sort of the blue-eyed, blonde hair, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, so next one. If you married a Muslim man and he asked you to convert, is that something you'd consider purely out of love for the person? Nope. Haven't even finished the sentence and you're straight in there. Fair enough. How come?
There's no point in you continuing, just nope. A big fat nope.
How come?
Again, I think it just comes down to the fact that I'm not religious. So I think it's a number of things. It's the fact that he asks me to convert. It means that it's not unconditional love, because he's saying, I will continue to love you, I will continue to be with you if you agree to convert, if you agree to become a Muslim. And it doesn't matter whether he's doing it because he is like a hardcore Muslim, or whether he sort of wants to appease his parents. It's just, you can't ask that of a person. You know, me being an atheist, or, you know, if I were a Hindu, that'd be part of my identity. That's who I am.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I'm not willing to give that up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get to the age of, 28, and that, as you said, religion is such a massive part of your identity. And if he's like, okay, well, you need to give that up, well, that's a lot of me kind of gone, and I'm giving that up because of love. And I feel like, definitely for me, I've got to a place where I'm like, I'm not going to forfeit my personality, my morals, and, my beliefs as well. And that does include religion for anyone. And, that's a place of confidence as well, because it's a bit insecure if you're like, I'm going to give that all up just for one person.
Absolutely, just what you say, because you've been working these 20 whatever years to sort of create who you are, and then you can't just alter that because of someone else. It doesn't know. I
mean, I would consider converting if I read up on the religion because of that. Because of that person, I was like, okay, well, actually, I really kind of sympathise and I really relate to this religion and it really resonates with me. Then maybe I would consider it, but I don't think purely out of love.
Agree. That. Like if I were to date like a Buddhist, and he's never mentioned sort of converting, but I just sort of out of curiosity, I sort of heard a few things about him. I read up on it and I got into it, and then I chose to convert to Buddhism. That's something completely different. But once he gets into the equation and sort of starts to initiate this and starts to sort of convince me, that's a no-go for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, cool.
I think it's also part of that sort of authority problem which I have. I don't like to do something which I don't.
I've realised I have that as well. I have something where I just don't like people telling me what to do. Like, I don't know where that comes from. Literally, I don't know if it's because I have a chip on my shoulder because of it. I don't like to be controlled in any shape or form. Maybe a bad
influence on you.
Maybe, yeah. All right, so the next one. If you had kids in an inter-religious relationship, would you try and compromise or forfeit any of your beliefs for the harmonious upbringing of the children? So it's kind of similar to the last question, but it has children in the mix this time. So
would
you compromise, or would you, if
just go with what he says?
Yeah, if you had really contrasting beliefs, and he was like, okay, look, like, I want to bring up the kids and make, in terms of like dietary requirements, I don't want them to eat pork, but you really love bacon or something like that, something small, would you forfeit that? Would you be like, okay, cool, fair enough?
I would be willing, like, if I'm with a Muslim person and he doesn't eat pork, then I'd be happy to sort of not eat pork. I wouldn't do it if he told me to do it again.
Oh, really?
I think that would bug me if he was like, oh, I don't eat pork and I don't want you to eat pork. That would bug the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. But I would just do it out of consideration. Like, I'm not that crazy about meat. So out of consideration, I wouldn't buy any pork in the house. Like, I'd probably still go out. Like, if I go out and I have pork, then he doesn't have any right to say anything.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't bring any pork home. I wouldn't prepare anything at home just out of consideration.
Fair dues.
In terms of bringing my kids up, if he sort of says, oh, my kids have to be Muslim, I think I'd have a problem with that if he doesn't allow me to bring in Hindu.
Okay, so what would be the healthy compromise?
Do you know what? I read this. I once saw this documentary. It was like a short trailer or something of Ricky Gervais, who's sort of quite known as an atheist and who sort of pushes that agenda. And he was saying how great it would be if people weren't allowed to talk about religion to their kids until they're sort of 16, 18.
Oh, yeah.
Until they sort of start to think for themselves.
Okay.
Up until that point, you're not allowed to mention religion, God, or, the Quran, or the Bible, or anything. Mm-hmm. Once they're 16, you can bombard them with whatever you want.
That's interesting. I wonder how that would manifest itself in society. Would people kind of grow
I think
up
you'd
more
have just
socially aware?
Fewer religious people. Because for a lot of people, it's just something they grow up with. It just sort of, they don't choose it. And I think that's sort of the same approach I would like to take. I just wouldn't, I think it'd be difficult to sort of not talk about religion, but I wouldn't sort of put it on them. I wouldn't force it on them, on my kids. I don't know, maybe it's it's difficult in practice. But in theory, I would say I would sort of teach them all, if that makes sense. Just sort of be like, you know what, these are all the religions that are out there, and they're all, you know, fine in their own regard.
Yeah, like here's a dish. Just choose what you want. Just you know, educate them about each religion, and then just like give them the choice.
Then they can just choose if they want to believe in God, and if they want to believe in God, which one they want to. Or, you know, maybe they don't want any religion, they just want to be spiritual. Like, you know, I think I would describe you as that person. I wouldn't necessarily describe you as a Muslim. I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm still, I like to adopt things from different religions. I mean, I love a lot of aspects of Buddhism. I love a lot of aspects of Islam and Christianity, and I kind of merge it into all three.
Your own kind of
my own hybrid, So, and I'm comfortable with that. But obviously, I'm growing, and I'm open to the fact that as humans, we are fluid and we do change constantly. So I'm willing to accept that, you know, maybe one day I might be completely, you know, a Muslim or completely a Buddhist. Like, I'm fine with that, and I think people should be flexible and open, because you do change. Your emotions and feelings do constantly change.
That's true. But I think it's quite important to sort of not being forced to sort of put yourself into a certain category and a certain shelf.
Definitely,
just be sort of open to all the things, and I think that's the main thing that I teach my children. I think I also teach them that morality doesn't depend on religion. Like, you don't have to be religious to be a moral and a good person.
I so agree.
As long as they're a good person, I don't really care much about what kind of God they
exactly. I think people really, as you said before with category, I think people really want to belong to a category. Like, community is so important for them, so a lot of people associate to a religion just because they want to feel like they belong. And that's something that's kind of like an issue as well. I think
that is changing as well, you know, with people like you becoming more the norm. People sort of just becoming more open to the concept of, you know, I can just sort of choose and pick what I want and make my own religion.
We're living in a world of choice overload, spiritually, romantically, everything. We have so much choice, food as well. But I think, spiritually it does work at an advantage, because we are a lot more aware and intelligent, I feel. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, with you done, I think it's time for me. I already asked one of my questions, so it's 4 left for me.
Okay.
All right, so go with the first one. What is your most memorable interracial couple in either film or literature?
Oh, wow. I have so many, but I would say maybe the first one was probably in Othello. Oh,
my God.
Shakespeare, yeah. And I always remember there was this line that always stuck with me, even like ages after. And it's, I think there was a part where they were having sex or something. And one of the servants goes up to the girl's mum, and he's like, oh, the Moor is with your daughter, he's making a beast with 2 backs or something. And that had like, I don't know, it was just really grotesque language. And it really stuck with me after, and I was like, oh, is that how people think of interracial relationships? So I had that. And then there was also, I don't know if you knew about, you know, the first interracial kiss on TV, well, British TV. So basically it happened in the 60s, and it was on Star Trek, I think. Why are you laughing?
Was it one of Captain Kirk's
I don't know.
cheeky little affairs?
I don't watch Star Trek, never have. But that was...
was it interracial or was it inter sort of species?
It was interspecies.
He's done a lot.
I don't know, it depends how racist you are, really. But no, it was in 1968, and apparently loads of people complained. But there was one before that, actually.
Really?
Yeah. People just thought it was disgusting, and I think they banned the scene or something.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, next question from me. When it comes to other religions or races, is there one that you find unacceptable? So, you know, if he's from a certain religion, would that be like, oh no, I don't do that religion, or it's too extreme for me?
Yeah, I do have my limits. I think anything that's too extreme, anything that's related to a satanic cult, or anything that's just evil.
Any sex.
Yeah, and sects. That's not my thing. I don't vibe with that. But I think ultimately anything that requires me to be untrue to myself or that stunts my personality or my happiness or my independence, that's something I would not give up for love, or just anything that controls me. Right. And I think that's important to look at when you're dating a guy as well.
That's true.
I mean, it is something I think people should consider before getting with someone. And the dating
so even
period.
If you sort of get with a Muslim guy, he you know, when you're with him, when you're going out, you don't have to wear a headscarf or you know, whatever. But when you go to sort of family events, if he asks you, or if his parents expect you to sort of wear traditional Islamic clothing, would that something you'd be willing to do, or would that be like no go?
Yeah, that wouldn't bother me, because that's at the same time.
Really?
Yeah, at the same time, you have to remember that's also my background as well. Like from my dad's side,
true.
like
Okay.
you know, my grandma dresses like that, my auntie. So it's something that I wouldn't mind doing. I mean, obviously, if he was like, you have to wear that, I'd be like, hell to the no, don't tell me what to do. But if I decided to do that, then that's fine. That wouldn't feel like something that's alien to me.
Fair enough. I think what you sort of can take away from this is don't tell us what to do. We just don't react nicely to that.
Yeah, basically.
Just don't, like, if we get to that conclusion by ourselves, that's fine, but just don't tell us what to do.
It could be the nicest thing, like, you know, just like the nicest advice, but we'd be like, no, just because you told us what to do, it's not happening,
exactly.
darling.
You should eat something. Nope.
Yeah.
I would starve myself.
Stubborn as shit.
Next question. What do you think are the advantages of an interracial or interreligious relationship?
I think there are so many. I mean, speaking from my experience, I just feel like there's so much richness that comes from it. I mean, obviously growing up, I didn't, I kind of took it for granted, and I was like, you know, the fact that obviously growing up mixed race, you have a lot of identity crisis. You kind of grow up and you're like, oh, which community do I belong to the most? But then at the same time, it's like I've grown up with so much richness in terms of TV, literature, just general knowledge, which I really, really appreciate. And that's kind of been like the, you know, the iconography of my youth, just like an eclectic mix of so many things, and like
best of both worlds.
Yeah, especially food as well. And also apparently, the more different your genetic strands are, the more apparently intelligent people are, apparently. I don't know how that...
Well, you're clearly the exception, but okay.
I know, right? But basically...
Is it actually true? That's quite interesting.
Yeah, and the moral of it is, you know, don't get into an incestuous relationship if you don't want, like, a knuckle-dragging child.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Apparently, yeah. And there was a study that said mixed-race people are taller, which I don't know how true that is, because I'm about 4'1", so no, that's not true. Definitely not applicable to me.
Same race relationships don't produce giants either. I don't know what I'm in inches, but I'm 160, 1m60, so that's not, I'm not even 1m60. And I think that's basically the answer to my last question. What would be the disadvantage? I think that sort of identity crisis that you go through, where you grow up in a society where everyone is categorized and, you know, does have a name tag and a label, and you're sort of unable to do that. You're not just one thing.
Yeah, no, that's true. You know, you do feel torn, and you feel like you need to be loyal to one side. But then that, you know, that's weird, because when I was growing up, I always felt a bit envious of people that were like, oh, well, everything's so black and white for them. It's like, okay, well, you know what? I speak Arabic. I look like Arabic people. I am Muslim, therefore I belong to this community, and it's just so black and white and so straightforward. But then for me, it was like, well, no, I have so many nuances, and I can't force myself to fit into anything. But yeah.
The answer to where you're from is never a one-word answer with us. It's like, well, my parents are from Sri Lanka. I'm Tamil. I was born in Germany, and the reason why I have a fake accent is because I live in the UK. It's like you have to tell them basically your entire life story.
You do.
To that one simple question of where you're from, bruv.
I know.
It's just so complicated.
Do you like that now, or do you feel like it's you're just over it, like you're used to it, or is it something that bugs you, having to explain
No, I think it used to bug me for a while. I mean, it bugs me when people ask that with a malicious intent, like with a sort of like a nasty twinkle, where are you from? Like, obviously then I react quite viciously and quite nastily. But if it's just a curious, where are you from? It's like, well, prepare yourself. Here we go. But I don't mind because, you know, then you do have this advantage. I speak a lot of languages. I do have a very rich cultural background. So my upbringing is just so rich in terms of history, in terms of culture, in terms of language, in terms of food. Where I just feel like I've won more than I've lost.
Definitely. And it's funny how that changes, isn't it? Because when you're young, you don't see that at all. You're just like...
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, we, as humans, we have that innate kind of feeling where we have to belong, and you always drift towards a group, but then you just, as you grow up, you're like, I'm different, and it's cool.
I'm a snowflake. Yeah. But you start to appreciate the fact that you're different. The otherness becomes something that you start to sort of cherish and appreciate, rather than when you were a teenager. You just want it black and white, because then it's easier to fit in and it's easier to be accepted by others.
That's true.
All right, so in sort of preparation for the podcast today, we went to our friends and had a bit of a quick survey and just sort of asked them about their experiences with interreligious relationships, and what the experience was like. And we thought we'd share those stories with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this topic is pretty controversial at times. It opens up a lot of wounds and it really gets people talking. I found when I kind of spoke to a few friends.
Really?
Yeah, it brought up a lot of anger, and because I think a lot of people have had bad experiences, but then there have been lots of good ones as well.
Yeah, so, I haven't had any anger as such. I think I've had a few frustrated stories. Like I was talking to a friend of mine who comes from a similar background as me, and again I mentioned it earlier that, you know, if I were to be in an interreligious relationship, I'd sort of date in secret, and he's in that same position where he's now seeing a white girl, and they are keeping it a secret. So it's a sort of, you have to hide around because he lives next to his parents. Mm-hmm. So he has to sort of play these games, sort of time when his girlfriend comes, when his parents leave, so they don't ever meet, and no awkward situation arises. But then it's like, he's my same age, he's 29 now, and it's just, he was just saying how, at the end of the day, it is quite frustrating and silly how you have to sort of tiptoe around your parents and around your girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Because especially for his girlfriend, it must be quite harrowing, because there's this thing about, you know, you want to be liked by your boyfriend's parents, and you want to be introduced, and not be, you don't want to be the dirty little secret, basically.
No, I mean, I can see how that could be offensive to someone, definitely, especially if they don't understand your culture.
Exactly, yeah.
But even if they do understand your culture, sometimes it's like, oh, well, you can't help but feel a bit burnt by it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I definitely understand that. Okay, so this was about my friend who, she's black, she dated a white guy, and then also her experience of dating a mixed race guy. So the first one with the white guy, it says, okay, so I'd say when I went out with Deep, he used to ask me things like why I didn't slick my hair, because he expected me to live up to the stereotype of being, a black British girl. And being young, I started to question whether the hairstyles I used to rock were socially acceptable. So I think it's harder when you're young as well, and you're in an interracial relationship, because you still don't really know yourself and your identity.
Yeah, you're so impressionable.
Yeah. So it's a difficult one for you to go through, really. So yeah, how do you deal with that if you're dating a guy from another race and they ask you stupid questions? Let's be frank, like just questions that are just like dumb.
Yeah, like do you belly dance or like ridiculous things like that? Yeah. Do you know what? Because I'm 28 right now, right? And I'm not comfortable with dating anyone younger, so he'd be 28 plus. If at that stage,
oh yeah,
he asked silly questions like that, I don't have time for idiots. I'm not gonna go into this thing like,
that's
what?
That's so true.
Obviously my life is not a Bollywood film, obviously. Like, what the hell? No, I don't
that's
have
a deal
time
breaker.
for that.
That's a deal breaker, especially in your late
I think
20s.
it's for black people, and this is so, it's just such a minefield, because one of my friends, she's black, and she dated a white boy. You know, he was quite into that sort of rap kind of lifestyle. He listened to a lot of rap music, and he dropped the N-word around her.
Ooh.
Again, he is white, and she is black. And she was like, bruv, you can't use that word. Like, it's such an offensive word. It's got so much bad history attached to it. And he just didn't get it. He just kept doing it, and it's like, no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she's now seeing someone who's he's from Spain. He's originally from Spain. He grew up in quite a small town in Spain, so he isn't used to a lot of diversity. He doesn't really know how to interact with black people because he never really met them until he moved to London. So there was a lot of sort of stereotypes and just dumb things that were sort of ingrained from watching TV and music videos and all that stuff that he just sort of internalized. That was really dumb, but she sort of explained things to him and he just got it. But it's still that sort of learning process that is involved in it.
Yeah. I think we underestimate how woke we are in the UK and how...
oh my God.
Like, we do, because when we go to other European countries, we're so horrified by what we see, but then we kind of need to understand that that's the norm that they've been brought up around, that they've been socialised to think that that's okay. But then at the same time, it is kind of our role, if we are dating someone like that, to educate them and to be like, yo, that's not cool, like that offends me, that triggers me, don't say that. So yeah, basically be horrified, but to an extent, and always be aware of, you know, their background as well.
Exactly. So if someone uses the N-word, and if they're sort of, you know, they just don't know better, because the only experience they've had with black culture is from, you know, watching rap videos where you do hear the N-word.
Yeah.
And they just don't know that it's a bad word, it's an offensive word. They don't know the history about it. Then fair dues. I'll teach you, and then you learn, but you have to learn.
Yeah.
And then we can continue. But if someone who's been brought up in London is in their 30s or late 20s and they use the N-word, no.
Yeah,
no.
That's definitely a deal breaker for me as well. If after you've learned, you still continue to use that word that obviously offends me a lot. Anyway, so next story. Okay, so this is from my guy friend, who he's white. He was with a girl from China for a while. And he basically said the main issue is that she's from a different country to me, and it's so very different. Everything has to focus around her family. She can't live here without their blessing. If I want to marry her, I need to get the whole family's blessing. Getting married is the main thing everyone wants there. Even if you've only dated a month, getting married is the priority.
Jesus.
I think I said getting married about 10 times in that one, but yeah. I mean, that's another one as well. Marriage has a whole different weight in different cultures.
That's true, but it just must be so challenging.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think for him as well, it's a bit difficult because he obviously wants to be with her, but there are so many difficulties in the way, including her family, and it must be difficult for her trying to balance both as well.
So does he know any? So her family is still in China.
Yeah.
Do they know English?
No, they don't.
Okay, so how did they communicate? How do they communicate? Is it sort of her translating for both sides?
Yeah, I suppose so. A lot of sign language and.
Was that something? How was that for him? Was that something?
Going to China, I think, was very difficult for him because he.
Oh, he even went to China.
Yeah, he went there to try and see if it would work out, and it was very difficult for him because no one could speak English, and he was like, I didn't see anyone who, like, I just saw Chinese people that whole time I was there. People would take pictures of me.
Very diverse.
Yeah, I was like a celebrity, but he found it very difficult. And I think the issue is he doesn't want to get married, but she has to obviously get the approval first, and also she wants to live there and he wants to live here. So it's like, obviously, he can't live somewhere where he just doesn't feel at home.
Know the language and is treated like, And
that's so unfair sometimes when you have to move for love. Like, that's another thing as well. Wow. It's so difficult having to just leave everything you know and get used to a completely different way of life for a relationship. Is it worth it?
Well, if it's an English-speaking country, you can sort of wrap your hand around it and you can sort of, make friends with the idea. But going to China without knowing the language... wow.
Yeah, it's a difficult one.
He must have been crazy in love, that boy.
Oh yeah, he was.
To even consider that for a minute and to actually book the ticket and go there and make that much effort.
Yeah.
Kudos. That's wow.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you get to a point as well when you get to a certain age, I can only imagine, because I'm a spring chicken, but like where you just think, well, what have I got to lose? Like, maybe this might be my last chance of finding love. Like, it's a sad thought, but sometimes you have it, and maybe that's what drove him to go there. But yeah,
a friend of mine, the girl that I was talking to earlier, the black girl, who's dating the Spanish bloke. She was saying how, they'd go visit his parents in Spain, and how she found it quite difficult because his parents don't know much English.
Okay.
Or pretty much any English. So it's difficult to sort of communicate with them. And I was just thinking, I actually wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if I guess I would like to understand my in-laws.
Not really,
but
actually.
I wouldn't mind the fact that my parents can't communicate with my in-laws.
That's so true.
Because then it's just going to be... It's okay if you can sort of... The necessary hi, how are you doing? Fine, okay, that's it. There's no need to get overly pally-pally and sort of, discuss how your kids are doing, how our relationship is. Just keep it simple. So I think having different languages, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, I have to say.
Yeah, no, I actually agree. Now that you say it, it's actually not that bad of a thought. Just them not being able to communicate. I wouldn't mind that.
And she was saying, because she's, or her parents are from Zambia, and he is Spanish, but she was saying, although they are different races, they share quite a lot with each other. Both cultures are quite easygoing. They're very family-centered. They're very chilled. I was talking to another friend she's Turkish and he is Italian. And she was saying the same thing, how both... She wouldn't even describe their relationship as interracial relationships.
Oh.
Because she just sees it both as sort of Mediterranean cultures.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
And she does come from a Muslim background, and he's Catholic, but they're not too fussed about religion. So that never plays a role in their life, or causes any misunderstandings or problems. And in terms of sort of cultures, they're both quite easygoing. It's sort of that sort of Hakuna Matata kind of lifestyle.
Okay.
You just take life as it comes. And she was saying how it would have been a problem if she had dated a British or a German, because they're not quite able to deal with their feelings the way that Italians or Turkish people are, because they sort of embrace that, they hug and they kiss, which I'm quite uncomfortable with as a German.
Oh, that's interesting. So she's found quite a happy medium because they're both quite similar culturally. That's
exactly,
really,
yeah. Also, in terms of language, because she was born and brought up in Turkey. He was born and brought up in Italy. They only met in the UK because they were both doing their PhD in Exeter. And so for both of them, English isn't the first language. So she was saying how they avoid arguments. Because it's not worth the hassle. Because they sometimes just don't know the words. Because, especially in the heat of the moment, when you're agitated, you tend to slip back into your native language.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So a lot of the times they're like, okay, I don't know how to say this in English. I'm too emotional right now. Let's just forget about this. We're not going to argue about it. Which I thought was just so cute.
That is really cute. Aww.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how sometimes linguistics kind of save the day. Well, sometimes you're just like, I can't be bothered. Let's just leave it there. And
Yeah.
And
it's a good thing, I suppose, because you don't get into unnecessary arguments. You don't sort of end up talking yourself into rage and sort of bringing up old things and sort of be like, and your mum's never liked me, and you've never cooked for me, and you never do the laundry, and just like silly things that you just say, and they just don't do it because they don't get into these silly arguments, which I suppose is makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, it does. That's very sweet, actually.
Yeah.
Just not bothered. Aww. All right, well, I have another story, and bear in mind that this is coming from... so the girl is black and the guy is mixed race, and the guy's mum is mixed race as well, and the dad is white. So when I was going out with beep, he would come out with comments like, "My mum warned me about girls like you." When I gave him a look about it, he explained that all black girls moan and give a lot more aggro to a guy about little things such as punctuality. And so she was saying that the situation was worrying because his mum was half black, and she thought that it was just kind of strange. And that brings me on to colorism, which is really apparent, I think, in a lot of cultures, where it's like, oh, well, I'm lighter skinned, so I'm not as black. Or, I mean, you even get it in Arab culture, where a lot of women, wear really light makeup to make themselves look lighter, and that's linked to like beauty and stuff. being fairer skinned.
Yeah.
And I think there was like an advert for like a I can't remember, it was like a skin bleaching thing, and it was like just because you're fairer skinned doesn't mean you're no, it's Fair and Lovely, sorry.
I think it's a South Asian brand.
Yeah, it is. And it's like just because I remember this girl saying on social media, one of my friends, she was like, just because you're fair doesn't mean you're lovely, which is very true. It's very true. So yeah, there's that thing, you know, with the whole racial hierarchy, and it's like absolutely ridiculous. Like, it has nothing to do with, you know, how you are as a person or whatever. But and also I read something interesting in Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell. He was talking about the Jamaican colonial experience and how they had a blatant like hierarchy. This was like in the 18th century or something, and it said how they had a term called mulatto, which was basically mixed race people that they were a product of like a relationship between a mistress and, you know, a white slave owner, and they would actually rank these, you know, the mulattoes or the mixed race people a lot higher than the people that were fully black. So, and they would literally have, you know, like a register of people where the slaves, the lighter skin they were, the more they would be worth. So I know it's crazy. You get a lot of stories when it comes to colorism and how they'd be classed. Like, they'd have literally like olive skinned, and then it would go to like, you know, other different complexions. So that was quite shocking for me to read that.
Another thing I think that comes along with sort of interracial relationships, which I deal with, and that sort of always lurks in the back of my mind, is being fetishized.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
I've, you know, a lot of my friends, black friends, Asian friends, and myself, we've sort of, you know, we've had experiences of guys dating us, you know, for the fact that we're brown or that we're sort of fucking
But you see, with that thing, where do you draw the line? So what is fetishizing and what isn't? Because, I don't know, you can get a guy who's like, that is my type, and then you can get a guy who fetishizes that. Is that a thing? Like, can you differentiate that?
Fetishizing for me is when he dates me purely because of my race, because of, you know, certain characteristics that come with my race, the color of my skin, my body curves, whatever. Mm-hmm. I remember she's East Asian. She's her parents are from Hong Kong. She was seeing this guy, and he was like, "Oh, and my mom is really excited about this date, and she really wants this date to go well, because she was saying how I should date Asian girls because they are hard workers.
Oh my god!
And are really good at school." And it's like, what the hell? Like, it's not even you fetishizing, it's your mom as well.
Yeah. And
it's another whole level of creepy.
Yeah, no, it is.
Is that something that you've experienced?
I don't think so, no. But I did date a guy who was into, his type was mixed race girls, or like, I would say ethnic girls. But I think for me it was that was his type, and it wasn't because he was like, I'm into girls that are like that. I just looked at his exes, like I've seen pictures of his exes, and I was like, oh, there's a bit of a pattern here. Like, obviously he had dated white people as well, but it was like, oh, is that his type? But I mean, because I was young, I didn't really look at it from a point where he was fetishizing me. But thinking back now, was that a possibility? I don't know. Okay. I mean, he never mentioned it. But I don't know.
I'm okay
what do you
with
think? What is the difference? What is the difference between that is my type and I fetishize that person? Because you can be more into a race, right? And is that fetishizing? I mean, that could just be like, I find them more attractive. What do you think?
Yeah, it is a difficult subject. It is difficult to sort of draw the line and sort of be black and white about it. I think where I draw what it means to me personally, I don't know.
It is hard, isn't it? Because I feel like I feel like you know quite a lot about this topic, and you introduced me to it in a way, and I always thought, like, what is the difference? Like, what is the difference between, you know, your type? Because I have a type. Like, I'm attracted to guys that look a certain way, but then I don't think that's fetishizing, because it doesn't turn me on. I'm not like, oh yeah, really, I'm into these kind of guys because they're well endowed or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of, it's like, I find that kind of guy attractive. I don't know, it's a hard one.
Yeah, I think for me, fetishizing means if you're reducing my identity to my race.
Okay.
That to me is fetishizing. If you know, who I am, my personality doesn't come into the equation, but it's just the fact that, you know, I'm from a Sri Lankan ethnicity. Mm-hmm. If that is the main reason why you're dating me, that to me is fetishizing.
Okay. I mean, my friend here said, she said a similar thing to you. She was like, assuming the guy you start dating just wants you because he has a fetish, and he just wants to experience being with a black person, not actually wanting anything serious or taking me seriously. His family could actually be quite racist and closed-minded, so he's just doing it for like more of a thrill, more of a sexual thrill more than anything, which she finds completely offensive, as she has experienced it as well.
I think to me that is sort of same with objectification, because I just become that physical object that you desire, that you sort of have in your head. The idea of a South Asian girl, that's all I represent to you.
Okay,
in the relationship. That's when it gets problematic.
Okay, I think, yeah, it is quite... I think the difference is quite apparent. I think it would be quite obvious.
Yeah. Again, I'm not expert in this, but it's just something to me personally, that's where I draw the line. That's how I sort of... I might be wrong. Maybe that's not sort of the official discourse. That's not what the academics agree on. But to me, that's where I draw the line. That's, to me, what fetishizing means. Going back to sort of interracial relationships, especially from a South Asian background, I just remembered this one thing. This I was talking to a friend about, you know, how I'm going to mention this on the podcast, and he was like, "You're going to make Tamil people look so bad on your podcast, like they're getting such a beating." So basically, he was a family friend, and he mentioned this rule he has for his kids, which is the BMW rule. It's basically, his kids are allowed to date anyone except blacks, Muslims, and whites. No way. So that's the BMW rule. And I was just like, what in the world is going on right now? Okay. And he was being so serious about this, and everyone was nodding and going along with it. And I was like, what?
Oh my god. Okay, so hold on. Is this an older person in your community?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
He's like my parents' generation.
Yeah.
And he was talking about it like it's a legit rule, and everyone in the room was sort of like, all the parents in the room, they were agreeing with it. They were like, yeah, no way, it's a black person coming into my family. I'm not marrying my kids to a Muslim, and no whites. And I was like,
damn.
What? But it's true, like a lot of people in my parents' generation, there's so much ingrained racism that they don't realise. Maybe it's wrong to call it racism. Maybe xenophobia is a better term, it's a more accurate term, but they're just so unwilling to accept anything that isn't them, that isn't, you know, their background.
I think it's, for some reason, it's less worrying knowing that it's coming from an older person, just because you get that in white communities, black communities, Arab. You get that sense of like, okay, well, you know, it's just our community, and we're not really that welcoming to others. And also, this is really weird. I was listening to a podcast the other day about people, when they get closer to death, like older people, they tend to regroup with their race. They feel more comfortable being around people of their community that speak their language, practice their religion, and so on, which I found really interesting. It's kind of like, you know how salmon goes back to its place of birth, I think, when it's about to die or something like that. So it's like a very kind of it's like a primal biological thing, and I feel like older people are like that as well. It's like, okay, or maybe they know something we don't. I don't know. Is it good to be racist or no? I think they just come from an older generation that's not as open-minded as we are.
It might go back to that thing that we mentioned earlier, where, you know, in our teens we just wanted to be accepted, and, you know, we want to be part of a group. And I think it's still that thinking, you know, you don't want to be an outsider, you don't want to be compared to white people or to black people. You want to have your own community, your own group, where you're accepted, where you have your standing. Because, you know, you've worked so hard all these years to create a name in that community, to create that standing, to create a position, and you're unwilling to give that up by giving a daughter into a different community, or, you know, taking someone else from a different community into yours. But at the same time, I'm not understanding. I don't accept that at all. I don't think that you have the right to complain about racism. You don't have the right to whine about how white people look down on you. But at the same time, it's okay for you to look down on black people. That's not how the world works. Which, you know, I think that's so problematic.
Yeah, it definitely is. It really is.
You know, once it becomes casual, and you like, you know, and I think that's where sort of these jokes come in as well. You have these racist jokes, and it's like, it's not funny because you think it's casual. It's not casual. Racism isn't something casual. It's so, if you bring up a child in such an environment,
yeah,
it does affect them so hugely. Yeah.
No, definitely, yeah, and that's something I think we need to change as a younger generation, kind of changing the rhetoric and the casual racism. That is something that's really outdated, and it belongs to like our grandparents' generation. So I guess
luckily it is getting, you know, in our generation we are being more open-minded and more liberal and more, you know, understanding and tolerant.
Yeah, and I think also it ties in with the fact that we're delaying marriage as well. We're being more picky, and we're kind of looking beyond race now. Like we're kind of transcending geographical borders and things like that. And that also reminds me of, you know, Prince Harry and his new girlfriend. She's mixed race. Prince Harry.
Oh, Prince Harry.
And his girlfriend, she's mixed race, and there were loads of titles, like a magazine saying, "Is the UK ready for a mixed race princess?" And it said,
out of all the countries, I think UK would be the most ready.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, obviously with Brexit and everything, people are kind of questioning this. And it said in the article that give it 10 more years and the question whether Britain is ready for a mixed race princess will be laughable. And it will be laughed at by a population dominated by mixed race people. Even now, if you ask the majority of people in cities and towns where immigration has been on the rise for decades, you'll probably receive a quizzical look followed by an acknowledgement that, of course, we're ready. So that's kind of showing you where we are, and the fact that we are moving towards being more open. And
I think people are more willing to accept a mixed race. What would she be, a princess?
Yeah.
A mixture princess than someone from, you know, a silver spoon sort of background.
Do you think?
Yeah, because there's a lot of sort of anti-elite sentiments going around. A lot of people, who come from a very rich background, they're sort of denying who they are, pretending to be middle class.
That's so true. People are trying to wean that out, I think, of the UK, like that classism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But just a random fact that I forgot to slip in when we were talking about colorism. Do you know about the brown paper bag test?
Sorry, who?
The brown paper bag test.
No, but I'm scared to ask.
Okay. So it's basically a type of racial discrimination in the US. So they used to use, you know, those brown paper bags that for shopping or whatever. So they used it as a way to determine whether an individual could have certain privileges. So it's apparently something that Michelle Obama spoke about recently as well. So only individuals with that skin colour or the same colour or lighter than the brown paper bag were allowed to do certain things. So they used them in like churches and things like that. Which is really
it was
bad.
A genuine thing? They actually held the paper bag and they measured it to your skin?
Yeah, no, it really was.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of, it ties in with, you know, the mulatto thing from Jamaica. So mixed race people, so children with white fathers or whatever, were given privileges. In terms of like work, education, property, or even freedom from enslavement. Can you imagine? Just based on your skin colour or how much white blood you had in you. So yeah, that's a random fact. Brown paper bag test.
Yeah, just a little fun fact for you guys.
Yeah. Okay guys, well that's all for today. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. We had a lot of fun researching it, asking our friends' opinions and talking about it. So yeah, it was a good one. Next week we'll be talking about the definition of beauty across cultures and even generations. So make sure to join us for that one. If you want to email us or contact us with your stories or opinions or anything, feel free to send us an email at mostmosaic@gmail.com, or you can even tweet us at most_mosaic.
So bon, thanks again for listening, guys, and we will see you on the next podcast.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.